Well, hey everyone, and welcome to my channel, You Can Do It. And do I have a project for this video? This is a freestanding landing stairway for the back door of a garage. This is at my girlfriend's house, and what she had out here rotted, and she was trying to hire somebody, and I kept trying to convince her that I could build it, and eventually she said yes, and I did. Now, never taken on a project like this before, but I thought about it and did a little bit of research and got it done. Now, the biggest things that helped me out here were these tough blocks down here that makes the foundation. These things are fantastic. I'll have links to them down below in the video, but this project is fantastic. You're going to want to sit around and watch how I did it because I didn't have any plans for this. Just like pretty much everything that I build, there were no plans, and it was just kind of doing things dimensionally as to how they looked at the side of the house. So I go through step by step, a little more detailed at the beginning. As I'm getting through the build, this video will kind of just be, here's what I'm doing now, here's what I'm doing now, so I'm not boring you with all the details. But if this is a project that you're interested in, and this is a project that you like, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, and let's jump into this build and let me show you how I got started. Okay, so the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the 4 corner posts supporting the landing. And what I'm using are these big beefy timbers right here. These are some cutoffs that came from a project that some other guys did from the Knights of Columbus at church. They built a deck right low off the ground deck for somebody, and they used these timbers to bury down in the ground, and this is what's supporting it. And that baby's not going anywhere, and they're treated with something, and these were the cutoff ends, and they didn't want them. And you know me, I can't waste wood, so I brought them home, not knowing what I was going to do with them, but here's the perfect project. They are like almost 30-something inches long. They're 3 feet long each, and all I need is about 20 inches is the highest I'm going to use. And they are over just under 4 inches wide, so I need 3.5 inches, so I'll rip it down there. And then they're a little over 8 inches wide here, so I'm going to be able to get 2 4x4s out of this, because the traditional 4x4 is 3.5 by 3.5, and that 3.5 by 3.5 is going to fit down in that tough block that I'm going to use for the base, which I'll show you later. So I've got my table saw set for 3.5 inches, and I'm going to have to make several passes on these things, kind of raising my blade up and down. Raise my blade gradually as I go to get these things cut through, because my blade's not going to cut all the way through that. Well, I've already made 2 passes on this piece, just testing things out and how I've got everything set. I've got my little portable outfeed out there because this piece of wood is so heavy, it wants to get everything tipped. And so I'm going to raise my blade up to its max height right here, run one last pass, then I'll flip it over and do the other side. Let me get my vacuum cleaner going. Okay, so that went through 3 times, and I've gotten more than halfway through the board. So now I just need to flip it over, lower my blade, and do a couple more passes, and I'll have my big chunk of wood cut to the right width. Man, that is some kind of wood. Okay, raise my blade up a little bit more. Let's do it again. All right, one more pass. Ought to get it. So there you have it. I now have one of my posts cut to 3.5 inches this way. I'm going to have to turn it over and run it through this direction, just like I did that one, and continue, do this one again, and then that big board, and I'll have my 4 corners. Well, I'm not going to bore you with all of the cutting, but I'm going to get to work. Well, here's my first 4x4, and man, I'm telling you, I don't know what this wood is, but it is heavy as it can be. The guys that I got it from said that, you know, it's just not going to rot. So, and here's this tough block that I'll be using, and I'll show you more of this when we actually get on site. But this is, instead of digging footers or using those concrete blocks, this is a plastic piece that the 4x4 just fits right in there like that. And so it keeps it off the ground and it keeps it out of moisture. The other thing that these things allow is a 2x4 or a 2x6 to be laid in here on its edge to create a bottom. And I'm going to use them for that as well. So pretty nice little product right here. I just picked it up at Lowe's this morning. Well, let me get busy and let me cut these other pieces of wood. So I've got all my 4x4s cut, all right, and they came out okay, not the greatest. This piece of wood was a beast, man. It was all that my portable table saw could handle. So I'm not as clean as I would be, but it doesn't really matter. You're not going to see this stuff anyway. It's going to be underneath of the landing. So now what I'm doing is I am creating a shoulder for a 2x6 to rest on, okay? And that's what's going to support the load of this little deck landing, stair landing. And let me get up here and show you what I'm doing. And I'm just making a series of cuts with my circular saw through here. I'm going to take them all the way to the end. Then I'll clean all that off, and then that 2x6 will sit right in there. I tried to do it on the table saw, and it was a little sketchy with the table saw. So I backed up, and I'm just going to use my circular saw here with this little jig. So just a whole bunch of little cuts like that. Much easier than that table saw. This piece of wood was, it's cumbersome. Since I don't have a big table, you're supporting the weight, and it just wasn't, I didn't feel like it was safe enough. Okay, so there's all my cuts. Now let me clean it up. Okay, let me show you a little close-up of what I'm doing. So here's all these pieces where I've just run the saw through. Now I'm going to take my hammer, just come in here and knock them all out. And then I'm going to take a chisel and just kind of clean up the edges and smooth it out the best I can. It doesn't have to be perfect because, again, this is just going to be supporting this 2x6. So let me clean this up and I'll show you the finish. All right, so here's a completed one. You can see here is one shoulder here, and then there's another shoulder here, so that this will be the corner of the deck, and the load will be held right here on these two shoulders. Well, that job is done. And again, I am no carpenter by any stretch of the imaginations, but these things look rough. But I don't think it's going to matter. These are going to be the insides where the 2x6s lay. The outsides look fine. I did get better towards the last one or two. They look a little bit better, but job is done. And only cut one finger. Didn't have any other mishaps. which is a good thing. So the rest of this project is going to have to be finished on site over at Phyllis's house, and I'll take you along the journey. Well, I don't know what happened to the audio in this next two clips, but this is where the deck and the landing is going to be. The difficulty is you can see how sloped the ground is, so the left-hand side from where we're looking is going to be, closer to the ground. The right-hand side is going to be higher. That's why these posts I'm going to be using with these tough blocks are so nice. I can make each side the size I want, to the height I want, to get everything nice and level, make it to the dimensions that I want. So let me show you how I put the tough blocks down. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm just using some pea gravel, and I'm making a little base to set each tough block on. And you can see I'm just putting, don't have to use a lot of it, just get enough of it up under there that there's support. Now, you really want to take your time here when you're doing this and be meticulous, because you want to get these tough blocks as level as you can get them. That's just going to make the rest of the job easier. And you'll see as I keep going through here, I'm checking the level both directions. And again, none of this ground was level, and I don't have to level the ground to get a level deck. I just got to make sure that each of the tough blocks underneath of each post is level, and then I will cut all of each individual post to the proper height. And again, I'm going to stress it one more time. Take your time right here. I would rather see you take more time. You can see I'm just moving this gravel around, moving it around, making sure that this block is level, because again, it's just going to make the rest of the whole project easier. So I've got it front to back. Now I'm trying to get it side to side. You can see me moving the thing around. So I'm scraping some from one side to the next, putting the block back on there, checking my level again, and eventually I'm going to get it. Here I felt like I needed to add a little bit more. And I think this one finally got it. So take your time here, folks. This is a very important step. Okay. So I've cut a piece to 46 inches is what I need here. And I'm going to have to get around here with my back to you, but I've got it set right here on this post, and I just need to make sure that it's level, and then I will come over here and mark this post over here as to how high it needs to be. Let's see if I can do it from this side. I forgot my clamps. Would have been nice if I had a clamp, but I'm going to get it done right here. There we go. All right. And I'll test that one more time. I'll test that one more time to make sure that it's level. But I think I got that. Well, there's that piece set in place, and it's perfect. It's up against the wall here. And you can see it comes out right here, so that my 2x6 going this way will come out and cover up that end. So great. Perfect right there. Now, I got to do the same thing over on this side. I've got to find my height here, and then find my height over there, and then I can screw all of these braces in place. Okay, coming together nicely. Well, I've got all my cross pieces. I don't know what you even call these things, skirt boards. I don't even know what they are, but these are the supports that the deck boards will go on. I've got them all cut to size. Everything right now is just resting on the 4x4s. And you can see what I was talking about when I was cutting these 4x4s, how these shoulder cuts that I did are now going to support the weight of this deck. So it's not going to be supported by screws. So what I've got to do now is I've got to screw all these pieces into here. I'm going to have to take this apart. I'm going to have to take this back piece off and lay it on the ground and get it screwed in. I don't have room back here for my drill and all of that stuff. So get that one in, get it set back into place, and then just methodically go around piece by piece by piece and get it screwed on. I'm using some type of an anchor screw that I got at Lowe's, not just a normal deck screw. It's this screw, it's supposed to replace an anchor bolt. So I will pre-drill holes and then screw that thing in so that it's, you know, a little more secure. All right, well, let me do that. I'll turn the camera off and I'll come back after I've got this piece up and show you what I'm doing around here on the side. Well, I've got this support piece screwed into my 4x4s up on this little shoulder. Now I just need to keep going around the edge. I'm pre-drilling so I don't split this little piece here. And let me show you these bolts that I'm using. They're called hex lock or head lock, and it says they replace a 3/8 inch lag bolt. And that's what intrigued me to them, was that they just weren't a deck screw like I'll use to screw the decking down. Well, I'm running out of daylight here. I'm going to turn this camera off and I'm going to get this finished. Shouldn't take 10 minutes. Well, there it is. My first ever attempt at building something like this, and unbelievable that it came out level. It's level this way, it's level that way. It's very solid. It's not going to go anywhere. And it'll just get even more solid when I put deck boards on there. Now, what I'm going to try and do tomorrow morning, before we head off to the beach, I'll put one more joist here to give my deck boards some support. And then I'll put deck boards here, and then I'll build one step down there to make it to where you can get off of it with ease. And then obviously we'll have to put some handrails on there, but nobody really comes in and out here. You just can't keep it this way. But so I've got plenty of time to get this done. But man, I'm happy. This is awesome right here. I didn't know how this would turn out, seeing how it's my first time ever, but really, really cool. All right, I'll keep you posted on the progress. All right, so I got one end with one screw in it. I've got two other screws ready to go. Basically, I use those like a pocket screw, but without my pocket screw jig. Now, I just need to screw in right here on the end. Let me get it started. Excellent. Make sure my board is straight. Hit it with one more screw. Now, tighten these other ones up. Beautiful. Look at there. Now, I could have used joist hangers here, but this board isn't going to be supporting a ton of weight. The most of the support is going to be on these edges, And the span here isn't that great. I just wanted it in here to prevent a little bit of sagging. So now all I have to do is start cutting these top boards. Now I do have to say, although this turned out level, I didn't get it square. It's 58 inches across up here, and it's over 59 inches back there, so it's pinched in just a little bit, but it's in the backyard. It's not going to be that big a deal, and I can actually save it by just making all of the top deck boards the same length, and you'll never see that the underneath isn't quite square. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut them all to the one length in the back, even them up. All right. I don't think you need to see me cut boards to 59 inches and screw them on here, but I'll show you what it looks like at the end. Well, here's my test fit with the top boards, and it took 8 boards, and I saved a little money here. And here's a nice tip. You know, this was only 5 feet wide, and I was thinking last night, I have a car, I don't have a truck, so I'm limited as to the size of wood that I can put in my car. And I can fit 8-foot pieces in there with some hanging out the window. But then I kept going, man, 8 feet, I'm going to have 3-foot cutoffs of every one. That's a lot of wasted wood. And I was thinking it'd be great if I could get 10-foot pieces, cut them in half, they'd be the perfect size. But I can't have all that extra wood hanging out the side of my car coming across town on all the roads. But I was in Lowe's this morning and I was looking at the price of the lumber, and one of the workers went by and said, hey, can I ask you a favor? Can you cut these 10-foot ones in half? And he just said, yeah, rough cut. I said, that's all I need. So he did a rough cut, cutting them all in half. And here's how much I wasted of a 10-foot board. That much. Now that's great. That's a big money saver. And I don't have all kinds of excess wood laying around. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw these in. I'm going to put 2 screws on each end, 2 screws in the middle. I'm going to start back there in the back. I'm using my pencil as a spacer in between the boards. Give me a little bit of room. I want rain to be able to go down through these things. Hey, we live in Mobile, Alabama. It's the rainiest city in the United States, so we deal with rain. I don't want rain sitting on top here catching in the cracks. I want it to go through. So I'm going to screw these pieces together. Again, it's just I've got 3-inch deck screws, and no need for pre-drilling here. It's just going to be bam, 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 sticking these screws in. So I don't think you need to watch that again, and then we'll move on, start talking about steps and railings. Well, I thought I'd show you me putting on the last board. And it's really worked out perfectly here. Again, I'm using my pencil as a spacer, and there I am right on the edge, using my pencil as a spacer right on the edge. Now, I did decide to drill pilot holes in the deck boards. When I was over there towards the edge, I kind of felt like I might get some splitting. So better safe than sorry. I'd hate to split one. And then you know what's going to happen once you split it. It's going to keep splitting. Water will get in there. So 4 more screws. And I do have to say, I did break a drill bit today, doing those little angled holes. Of course, broke a drill bit, but the little half piece was working nice for what I've got going on. All right, last 2 screws. Okay. Oh, solid as a rock. Unbelievably. Doesn't shake, doesn't move. Excellent way to build a little landing, or it could be just a freestanding deck in the yard using these tough blocks. Adult beverage for a job well done. Now, I'm going to come back. Like I said, I've got to still put the steps on, and I've got to put some railings around here so nobody's going to fall off the edge. But on my way, and just one last little tip thing as well. You know, if you just have a circular saw or maybe a table saw like I do, that I was able to do these blocks, but think about the dimensions of whatever it is you're building so that the pre-cut lumber fits. So again, this was 5 feet by 4 feet, and you know, these deck boards are 5.5 inches wide. Well, that means 8 of those deck boards with a little bit of space in between them covers that 4 feet. So there was no trimming of a deck board. There was no having to rip one. And sure does make your project go faster and a lot smoother. All right, now let me figure out how I'm going to do railings. I don't have that quite figured out yet. I've got to come over and play around and figure out how I'm going to do my steps, because again, it slopes this way. But I'll get it done. Cheers. Happy New Year. Tomorrow's New Year's Eve. All right, let me show you how I've progressed. I've got the side rails up for safety, and all I've done is just taken 2x4s and attached them down at the bottom of those 4x4 posts. And then I put kind of a 2x2 right here attached up to there, and then a deck board on top. And I just repeated the same thing on the other side. All right, so I've been figuring out how to build the steps, and I'm being a little cheap here, I think, but I had leftover 2x4s that just weren't quite long enough. And instead of going and buying one more, I got to go buy one more anyway, but instead of buying 2, I'm doing a little improvising, and let me show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to run a 2x4 from about here over in front of that, then over to that 4x4. And I wanted there to be some more support here, but I didn't really have a post to put in there. So I've done this, taken on leftover 2x4s, just end cuttings, screwed that together, and then it's going to sit up under there, just like that, and I'll screw it in, just like that one. Then as my 2x4s come across this way, I can screw them into there. Now, may not be traditional carpentry, but I think it's going to be very solid, and I think it's going to work. Well, there you have it, right there. There's where the 2 boards meet. Going across, very solid. And this is going to be the backrest of my step. It's going to work out just nice. Okay, so my next step was putting in these balusters. And I'm going to come down here and show you what I did. I just put a 2x4 across to give it a little dressed look at the bottom. Put the baluster on the outside of the frame of the deck, so those 2 things match up. Those are just pressure treated 2x2s, and a pressure treated 2x4 was the skirt. And then when you get up here, the baluster was inside. So it's inside on the top, outside outside of the bottom. Here's the other side and the other look. Now I just have to get the step done. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that today because I don't have a chisel over here. I'm going to need a chisel, and I've got one at home and I'm not at my house. If there's any luck that Phyllis has a chisel, I will attempt to finish the steps. All right, now I'm building the frame for the steps, and I've just used a tough block on each end and made the post exactly like I made the post for under the deck. Here's the other side, and I've just screwed this cross piece into the end of that 2x4 I had screwed to the original deck. Now I just have to put 2x4 across there, and I'll be able to lay the decking. Well, here it is. Here's the finished product. And I'm going to tell you what, it's awesome. You know, this was probably the biggest build that I've ever done so far as a structure. I took my time. It took me over probably 2 weeks to build this thing, just because it's not at my house and I'm at Phyllis's house, and we had rain, I was out of town, all of that stuff. So I just was doing it when I could. And this thing just turned out great. I thought originally I was going to put another handrail here, but I don't think we need it. And now it's just going to sit here and dry out. All of this pressure treated lumber, and again, everything I used was pressure treated lumber, is still very green, very wet. And we're going to let it dry out and then stain it the same color as the deck up here, which is the same color as the house. So quite a project. And trust me, you can do it. I know you can. It's just, I took my time. I, did a little bit of work at home, like you saw at the beginning, but everything else I did right here. I just had a circular saw, and I had a drill, or 2 drills, one for actually drill bit and the other one for the screw adapter. But that's what I had over here, and it came out fantastic. Well, I want to thank y'all so much for coming in and watching the video. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of how this thing turned out. And if you like this build, hit that subscribe button for me. I would appreciate it. And because that's what this channel's about. It's just things that you can do at home. And most of the things that I'm doing, I'm doing on the fly. Again, there were no plans for this one right here. All right, thanks, y'all. I'll see y'all in the next video.